2018 ended with the Clemson Tigers once again national champions of college football. But now it's time for a new season. It's time for kickoff. It's time for the 150th anniversary season of college football. But before that begins, everybody has to make their predictions. So, let's get into it. Welcome to College Football Media. Here we talk about teams, trends, and traditions to logos, history, and predictions. If you enjoy that, consider subscribing and enjoy the video. I'm going to go over all of my predictions for the 2019 season right now. So, for a little bit of perspective, let's start with who I think will be the conference champions. In the ACC, I have Clemson over Miami. In the Big Ten, I have Michigan over Iowa. In the Big 12, I have Oklahoma over Texas. In the Pac-12, I have Oregon over Utah. And in the SEC, I have Alabama over Georgia. So, with those conference champions in mind, how does that factor into the playoff? For the past two seasons, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Clemson have all been in the college football playoff. Alabama has been in the playoff every year since 2014. Clemson has been in the playoff every year since 2015. Oklahoma has been in the playoff 3 times, 2015, 2017, and 2018. So I'm betting that all 3 of those teams don't quite make the playoff yet again. And every year since 2016, there has only been one new team added to the playoff field. In other words, there's only been one program that has been in the playoff each of those 3 years that are new to the playoff, that have not been to a previous playoff. And the other 3 teams have been to a playoff before. So with that in mind, it's pretty obvious that you would have a conference champion Clemson Tigers once again in the college football playoff. I expect them to be the number 1 seed, probably having an undefeated season. For the number 2 seed, it's pretty obvious as well. I have Alabama once again in the playoff. Pretty simple so far. For the 3rd seed, I have the Michigan Wolverines. This is assuming that they beat Ohio State, have either 0 or only 1 loss, and of course win the Big Ten. If that happens, I think Michigan does get in the playoff this year. The 4th spot in the playoff is pretty close. I changed my mind recently. A lot of people expect either Texas or Oklahoma or maybe even Georgia to be in this spot, but something just doesn't feel right to me right now about those predictions. It's unlikely that Oklahoma goes through 3 quarterbacks and 3 playoff appearances. I don't think Texas is quite as consistent as they may appear to be at the moment. I think it's very possible that Texas can beat Oklahoma, but a playoff appearance isn't quite as sure of a thing as I think everybody else assumes. And of course you could consider Georgia or maybe even Ohio State as in a second team getting in the playoff, but again, I don't necessarily expect the playoff to do that either. It's very unlikely. And so my prediction is that the Oregon Ducks make it back into the college football playoff. I know. It's very, very unlikely, but that's exactly why I'm picking them. Let me explain. The Oregon Ducks have made a previous college football playoff appearance in 2014. I think Michigan will be the one team that's new to the playoff this year, and technically Oregon has been there before. And the reason that I haven't predicted Oklahoma or Texas or Georgia or Ohio State to make the playoff this year is because everybody expects them to be in contention. Everybody expects, say, one of those teams to make the playoff. It's an easy prediction to make, and usually preseason predictions are not correct. And therefore, I'm kind of going out on a limb here. Most of the summer I was debating between Oklahoma and Texas to make the playoff. But let me just go over one specific stat with you very quickly. Oklahoma has 4 returning starters on offense, and they have 8 returning starters on defense. Texas has 5 returning starters on offense and only 3 on defense. And you might say, yeah, so what? But Oregon has 10 returning starters on offense and 7 returning starters on defense. They are the most experienced team in the entire country. And honestly, when you really think about it, it's a little bit easier to trust Justin Herbert than, say, Sam Ehlinger or Jalen Hurts. Justin Herbert could be the #1 overall quarterback taken in next year's draft. Now, Mario Cristobal is not as proven as, say, Lincoln Riley, but he might be on par with Tom Herman. And so really I'm just playing the odds that there's usually a surprise team that makes the playoff. There's usually one team that nobody expects that does make the playoff. And this year I'm betting on Oregon to take that spot. In the preseason polls, Oregon is basically around 12. And that's usually a good ranking to be for a surprise playoff team that nobody really sees coming. They have expectations for that team, but they generally surpass those expectations and surprise everybody and make the playoff. Now, there's only one team that does that just about each year, and this year I predict Oregon to be in that spot. So with the playoff field set, let's go through the other New Year's 6 bowl games. Rose Bowl is pretty easy. You take Ohio State out of the Big Ten and pit them against the Pac-12 runner-up in Utah. And out of those two teams, once again I think Ohio State wins the Rose Bowl, but this time with Ryan Day at the helm. The Sugar Bowl is a little familiar. Georgia and Oklahoma. In this scenario, it's a pretty tough call. Oklahoma lost to Georgia in 2017, an amazing Rose Bowl game. And last year, Georgia lost to Texas in the Sugar Bowl, as Oklahoma lost to Alabama. So both teams are pretty hungry for a postseason win. So basically, with a flip of the coin, I think Oklahoma wins this game. In the Orange Bowl, I have Miami against the Group of 5 team, Houston. Yes, I think Houston wins the American Athletic Conference, gets the Group of 5 bid, and they end up in the Orange Bowl against Miami. Now, you might think that Houston would be in the Cotton Bowl, but that game is a lot more interesting in my opinion. And I do think Houston does beat Miami. The American Conference is on a roll. So for the Cotton Bowl, I have Texas A&M and Texas. Wouldn't you love to see this in the Cotton Bowl as a New Year's bowl game? Or even the Sugar Bowl? Honestly, we just need this matchup back. And as a postseason game, it would be incredibly heated. Texas and Texas A&M, schedule this game, again, please, in the regular season. But this would be awesome for 2019. The Longhorns versus the Aggies in the Cotton Bowl would be a very exciting game, and I think that Texas A&M pulls out a win. Okay, I've gone through those pretty fast, so let's get back to the playoff semifinals now. Alabama, Michigan, Clemson, and Oregon. So let's start with Clemson and Oregon. In this scenario, this game would be played in the Peach Bowl. Basically Clemson's backyard compared to where Oregon is. And it would already be a surprise if Oregon actually does make the playoff, and so it's a pretty easy pick. I think Clemson, with Trevor Lawrence and Dabo Swinney, win this game and get back to another national championship game. On the other side, Alabama and Michigan would be playing in the Fiesta Bowl. A pretty long trip for both teams. Jim Harbaugh would be coming off a high of a season, finally beating Ohio State, finally winning the Big Ten, and getting to a playoff. But unfortunately, they meet Alabama. It could be a fun game. Tua Tagovailoa, Shea Patterson, Jerry Jeudy, Donovan Peoples-Jones. A fun game, but I think, again, it's a pretty easy pick in Alabama to win this game and get back to face Clemson for the 5th time, once again in a national championship game. Clemson, Alabama again, what do you expect? It's pretty obvious, but hey, I want to get these predictions right. Tua and Trevor, Nick and Dabo. This game would be played in New Orleans, and they've played in that location before in the semifinal Sugar Bowl. Dabo Swinney won a national championship at Alabama in 1992 in this same stadium. I don't expect this game to be a blowout again, but we are 6 months out from when it would be played. Clemson would probably be the favorite going in. But here's some more fun facts about this rivalry. The revenge team has always won. The team in white has always won. And so in this scenario, that team is Alabama. And there's one more bit of motivation that I'll get to here in just a second. So yeah, my prediction is that Alabama has so much revenge, and this time they're focused, and Clemson doesn't just completely dominate them, and Alabama wins the 2019 national championship. And don't forget, Clemson is losing their completely dominant front four to the NFL. Last year, they came back for their senior season, and it showed in Santa Clara. But this year, they're gone. They had to go to the NFL. They were seniors. And Trevor Lawrence is exactly who everybody thinks he is, but I think Tua Tagovailoa is as well. This time, I think the teams play out much more evenly matched, and Alabama gets that revenge game. But that final prediction for this season, and also that last bit of motivation that I just mentioned, is that I predict Trevor Lawrence to win the Heisman Trophy this year. Well, I'm probably wrong, but thank you so much for watching College Football Media. Let me know in the comments down below who you think will be in the playoff and who will win it all. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more college football content. Thank you so much for watching College Football Media. Be goody now.